Again, I'd like to thank Ed Parker for all his teachings to me, and I miss him every day. I wish he was still here. I still think he's on a coming up 31-year trip to Europe or Australia or someplace. I just miss him so much, and I wish he were here. But in the meantime, the best I can do is continue to parrot what I've learned from the man that developed our system, the founder, Edmund K. Parker Sr., the one and only founder of Kenpo.
I'm here discussing some Kenpo principles and concepts with Senior Master of the Arts, Dennis Conatser Sr. Dennis, tell us a little bit more about the principle and concept of forced engagement.
Well, forced engagement is during a confrontation, you are now being forced to 2 points, either one, block, or two, run. It's either or. Now let's go into the block. Running's pretty simple. That's pretty obvious. Now, if you're forced to block, you're now, and there's four components to that. And the first one is when force meets force. And I'll give you an example. Say a right punch is coming in. Now you're being forced to defend yourself. You're going to have that punch coming in, and you are going to have to do what? You're going to have to block. So this whole thing is centered around blocking, but there's four aspects of blocking. The first one is force against force. So here comes a punch, and we actually strike it, or we actually block it, but it actually can be a blocking strike in this point. So that's the first level of that. And we can go into many techniques that have that happen. In fact, it happens on every technique. The second part is force with force. This is a parry. In other words, here comes the right punch, and you're not going to go against that force, force to force, as in the first category, but now you're going to parry that, which means you're going to ride that force, and you're going to shove it off or parry it off to another direction or whatever. So that's force with force. The next is force to a neutral. Now, force to a neutral is where the big point here is in positioning. This is going to be position. In other words, your hands up, your hands high, the bottom hand's low. Here comes a roundhouse kick, and it hits your lower arm. So there comes a force in, and you're not doing anything. It's just, but you're protecting. So you're in just position to absorb or to block. Again, remember, the key here is all of these are ways to block, which is what forced engagement is. You're forced to block. So now your hand is down and the kick is coming in from your opponent and he kicks your arm, which you are defending yourself, but you're not doing any response with it. It's just in, and here's a key, position. Third level is position. So the first one is your force against force. That's where you're striking into the person that's striking you. The second one is force with force. You're parrying. Okay. The third one is position. You're just in position, and the strike, block, punch, kick, whatever is being nullified by your position or your posture. That's why posture is important. The fourth and last one is when neutral meets a neutral, and that's basically pinning. As a hand comes on you, he's being grabbed. That's the end of the attack. It's just a grab. And now you're going to pin that grab. So his neutral against your neutral, which is a pin. So those are the four elements of forced engagement. Or we can say blocking, because anytime we're attacked, we must block it either by retreating, moving, maneuvering, or by actual taking physical action. Okay, I hope that was a cute enjoyment and a little snippet of forced engagement to increase your knowledge. And again, these things are all how to define an attack. They're teaching tools for the instructor to define why we're doing the block or this way or that way, what positions for, why positions are important, and so on and so forth. I'd like to just talk a little bit about technique execution. I see a lot of people teaching how to do the techniques. What I'd like to do is talk a little bit about what you're actually doing in the technique that's going to make it functional. Mr. Parker used to always emphasize to me articulation or proper body alignment, which is anatomical positioning. These things are all aspects of executing techniques to make them functional. And when you talk about proper body alignment, it's all a matter of putting your body in proper position, against the oncoming attack or the opponent. Now, to do that, you need to complement yourself so that your techniques, your responses, your blocks, your strikes, your kicks are all in line and you're in well balanced and well based posture. Complementary angles are nothing more than utilizing the angles given to you by your opponent and being able to trace up those angles to your best advantage. We want to more or less fit our weapons to our opponent's attack. In terms of executing the attack, another factor is the breathing. You must breathe and have penetration in your attacks. And again, this has nothing to do with the sequence of motion, but it has to do with what you're doing while you're, uh, attaining the sequence. Attaining the sequence without proper articulation with the moves is going to be much less fruitful for you. Breathing is extremely important. Target selection, penetration of your strikes is also an incredible. It's a major point. Uh, and as we get to the advanced students, once you achieve this, and we work on this through training and so on and so forth, once the advanced students get in, we also then try to focus on neurological components to not just strike anywhere on the body, but to strike key points on the body, center nerve centers, and so on and so forth. This will make your defenses much more effective. And I'd like to, we don't have, I don't have a whole lot of time right now to talk about that here. We can expand on that in future editions, but pay attention to your articulation, making each move sharp, clear, clean. Make sure it fits to your opponent's what he's giving you. There's a lot of what to do out there, but there's not so much how to do it and why you're doing it. And when you get into why, you get the theory, you get the principles, the concepts, and that is what really I wanted to emphasize is more of the how, not so much how, but the why and what to do correctly or whatever. Then just learning that is only a portion. The next thing is you must train it continually. Just knowing about it and know how to do it and why you're doing it, that's all fine. But the next factor that brings you to the edge is you must train it continually and keep after that. And that's what you need to do with your art, as well as just learn the sequences of motion. The sequences are merely a base. What you do with those sequences are going to determine how well you actually are able to make those techniques functional or work to your advantage.